Hello everyone, my name is Brian and welcome back to Barb's Basement. It has been too long since I have seen the light of day. Hopefully nothing major has been happening on the outside world and everything is great. So I'm sure some of you are aware of a little independent show called The Mandalorian. Star Wars, ever heard of it?
Thumbs way down.
You didn't like it?
No, I think I deserve a public apology from George Lucas.
Last season we got another little nod into the Mandalorian Wars, the legendary war between the Republic and the nomadic space Catholics, the Mandalorians. As of right now, we still know very little about the new canon Mandalorian Wars, but with all the buzz around Season 2, that got me thinking about Mandalorian Jedi. So before we dive into the history of Force users in the Mandalorian ranks, let's get a little history into the Mandalorian Wars for context. The Mandalorian Wars started in the year of our Lord 3976 BBY, and lasted for nearly 2 decades and saw the Mandalorians initiate a bloody crusade against the Republic. In the process, countless worlds became war-torn, the Cathar species was hunted nearly to extinction, and, worst of all, the Mandalorians nuked the surface of Sirocco to glass.
Are we the baddies?
Not only a very not cool move, but also very much a war crime. Throughout the war, the Mandalorians became more and more superstitious of the Jedi wizards, and viewed them almost as a mythic enemy. Among the Mandalorian ranks, misinformation was rife. It was all over the place, with some being so ignorant to the ways of the Jedi that they thought the Jedi could spread a mind sickness because there was too much bad mojo in the air. Of course, the Jedi could have never entered the war in an official capacity, with the Jedi Council outright banning the Jedi from joining the Republic's war efforts. You know, bureaucracy and all that. Why would the Mandalorians allow Jedi in their ranks, I hear you ask? Well, it goes back to the old proverb, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. At this point in galactic history, Jedi being disillusioned with the Jedi Council was very in vogue. The Jedi were full of infighting and bureaucracy and going back and forth about whether or not they thought it was problematic to join the war effort. To the larger galaxy, it appeared as if the Jedi were leaving the government that had protected them out to dry. In reality, it was because there was a big baddie out there building a Sith Empire, a topic for another time. So, at the height of the Mandalorian Wars, some Jedi defected and joined Revan in his fight against the Mandalorians, against the wishes of the Council. One of those Jedi was Drijander, a vet of the Great Sith War. During Exar Kun's campaign, he had somehow convinced the Mandalorians to join his cause. Drijander was captured by the Mandalorians, and during his time as a prisoner of war, he fell in love with a Mandalorian woman and was taught their nomadic ways. The pair were expecting a child when a Republic bombing run killed his new family. Obviously, he was a bit miffed by this. Drijander maybe was once sympathetic to the Mandalorians and their plight, but he was now radicalized. Being on the receiving end of such an attack fully converted him to the way of the Mandalorian. Despite this, he was still able to insert himself back into the Jedi Order once the war had ended, and he even gained a seat on the High Council. At first, he resisted the internal calls by the Jedi to join the war, but soon he took a different approach. He stepped down from the Jedi Council and baffled the Jedi Order when he actually joined Revan on the front lines against the Mandalorians. But he would be pulling it sneaky and he would double-cross the Republic with a group of like-minded Jedi. You see, they thought the Republic wasn't flexible in their positions, and somehow thought the Mandalorians, a notoriously staunch group, could be guided easier. At the Battle of Essen, Drijander and his Mandalorian Knights, as they would come to be known, betrayed the Republic and captured a large section of their military force that had invaded the planet. They gave them 2 options, to fight or to become slaves. Yes, much better than the Republic. Unfortunately for them, during the battle, the actions of a kind-hearted Jedi named Zane Carrick would foil their plans. Zane had been through a lot in his short life. Seriously, go read the KOTOR comics, stop watching this video right now and go read them. Zane saved the lives of a Mandalorian woman and her child as her basilisk wardroid had crashed to the planet's surface. Look, we're gonna gloss over the ethics of bringing a child to an active war zone right now. During this battle, Zane and his commanding officer were tricked into thinking the Mandalorians had retreated into the forest. In reality, this was Master Case's grand plan. As the Republic forces entered the forest, they were surrounded by the actual Mandalorian troops, and that's when they were given the ultimatum: either join our forces or become slaves. Drijander knew of Zane, because, well, he was framed for murder and famously hunted by the Jedi and the Republic. He knew Zane was a pacifist and he didn't want to see any harm come to anybody. He would use this to his advantage. He would convince Zane to board the Reciprocity, a Republic Hammerhead cruiser. He would use the Reciprocity to sneak on board a Republic communication station. Using the goodwill he had garnered with the Mandalorian mother and her child, he convinced her to send an outgoing message to none other than Griff, the famous grifter. Griff managed to get his hands on a classified document, and showed that the Republic Defense Ministry had actually been following Master Case for some time. Through this, Zane was able to deduce Drijander's next stop: sunny, beautiful Dantooine, Jedi outpost / future rebel scapegoat. They were going there for one reason and one reason only: Jedi younglings. Zane had unraveled the master plan to abduct children that had already been abducted by the Jedi Order and to indoctrinate them into the ways of the Mandalorians. Since the Republic as a whole was unaware that Master Case had actually defected, he was able to feign loyalty to the Republic and trick Master Zar Leston into letting the Mandalorian forces land on the planet. Zane was able to get to the planet's surface by using the Mandalorians' phobia of the Jedi to his advantage, pretending to have Jedi brain fever. Since they had very little understanding of the Force, they bought it. This little stunt wouldn't just trick the Mandalorians into letting Zane head to the planet's surface, it also turned the Mandalorians against their Jedi defectors and abandoning them on Dantooine. Mandalorians may have been genocidal warmongers who would nuke the surface of planets that didn't agree with them, but they draw the line at kidnapping children. So what were the Mandalorian Knights in the end? Did they even make sense? Well, no, not really. Master Case seemed to want to even the odds for the Mandalorians in their war efforts. Revan was such a master tactician that once he joined the war, it was really only a matter of time until they won. Master Case had spent so much time with the Mandalorians as a prisoner of war that it could be argued that he left the Jedi the moment he fell in love with the Mandalorian. So were the Mandalorian Knights really Jedi Mandalorians? Also, no, not really. They weren't Mandalorians who had joined the Jedi ranks, they were more disillusioned Jedi, who were very contradictory in what they actually wanted. They joined a nomadic war culture, even though they were guardians of peace. A culture that would ultimately and wholeheartedly reject them and their efforts to create more Mandalorian Knights, something that many Mandalorians saw as abominations. In the end, Drijander Case was a tragic figure who lost his wife, his child, the Jedi that had once embraced him, and his new family, the Mandalorians. Even as he was convicted of high treason, he argued that he was correct for hours as a roaring crowd on Coruscant cheered for his guilty verdict. A victim of an endless war between powers greater than himself. The first in a long line of attempts to bridge the gap between Jedi and the Mandalorian people, with the only successful attempt bringing us the Darksaber created by Tar Vizsla. Well, that's it for today's video. Let me know what you think of the Mandalorian Knights. In my opinion, they had extremely flawed logic, ultimately doomed to fail at the height of a conflict that saw extreme xenophobia for Jedi servitors, and it genuinely confuses me as to why Mandalore would have approved their existence in the first place. Anyways, I hope to see you next time, here, in Barb's basement.